So the question of the day is, should the original lineup of Queensryche reunite? And the reason people are asking this is that there was an interview recently with former Queensryche lead singer Geoff Tate. It was Eddie Trunk on his Sirius XM radio station. Geoff Tate had revealed that he, along with the other original members of Queensryche, had been offered what he called an obscene amount of money to reunite. So let me go quickly. I first read about this on the Ultimate Classic Rock website. So let's go over there. Here we go. It's an article by Jen Austen, date January 27th, 2022. Queensryche offered, quotes, obscene money to reunite with Geoff Tate. And there's a pic of Geoff Tate. And I guess the question I have for these folks who are offering Queensryche this obscene amount of money is, do any of them recall just the incredible amount of stress, tension, ill feelings that were going on between band members when they finally went their separate ways? I sure do. I remember watching clips of a concert here on YouTube. The concert wasn't on YouTube, but that's where the clips were located, where it was very obvious that these fellers really didn't like each other much anymore. And, there's a lot that goes on. There's a lot of we could talk about in terms of the why. But end of the day, it was a working relationship that simply wasn't working anymore. And that's what happens. Sometimes I think we forget that this is their careers we're talking about. And so Geoff went on and formed his own version of Queensryche for a while. And of course, Queensryche went and found themselves a new lead singer in the form of Todd La Torre, who I think is simply phenomenal, by the way. And I've seen Queensryche a couple of times with Geoff Tate, and I've seen Queensryche with Todd La Torre. And yeah, they are different bands. Obviously, they have to be. But, Queensryche is an evolving band. But when you ask me which band is Queensryche, it's the band that has Todd at the helm right now. And when there were dueling Queensryches out there, ultimately, I believe everyone came to the opinion that was correct. And now I believe Geoff Tate, when he tours, he goes by the name Operation Mindcrime, which makes a lot of sense since I think he had a lot to do with the creation, the genesis of that album. One of my favorite rock albums, by the way. So I think the world of Geoff Tate. I think he's a smart, sharp feller, but I also think that he's no longer with Queensryche, and I don't think it makes sense for him to ever reunite with Queensryche. I think Queensryche, with Todd at the helm, I say at the helm, as frontman, they're doing wonderful things. Their 2019 album, The Verdict, was great. And like I said, I've seen them live. I think it was 2017, 2018. I got a chance to see them live with Todd, and I thought he did a great job. Not only covering the new songs, obviously, he's a great vocal performer and talented drummer as well, by the way. But he really was able to channel, when needed, Geoff's vocals for classic Queensryche tracks. But I will say that he made them his own as well. So let's look at this article a little bit by Jen Austen on January 27th. It references the January 24th interview with Eddie Trunk. Apparently it was transcribed by Blabbermouth, where Geoff said that the band's classic lineup had been offered obscene amounts of money to get back together and do one tour. This is a quote, I believe. One tour, and we never have to tour again. And then Geoff said that a couple of band members turned it down. They simply weren't interested in doing it. I wonder who those band members were. Clearly doesn't sound like it was Geoff. But Geoff does say something really interesting and really smart in this interview. He says, let me scroll down here. It says, the former frontman further explained that money is not the motivator. Let's think about this. When you have enough money, what is the motivator then when it would come to any sort of discussion about a Queensryche reunion? And he says, Jeff Tate says, getting together for an artistic dream isn't a motivator either. That would be the other motivator, for them to continue to explore the possibilities of Queensryche, the original incarnation. He says, if you don't have that, what do you have? You have nothing. So anyway, the rest of the article goes on to talk about what happened in 2012 when they parted ways and found Todd as a new singer. And ultimately, my hope is that both Jeff Tate as well as Queensryche, the members of Queensryche now with Todd La Torre as frontman, I hope that they're happier. Music should be a joyful thing. It's a celebration in many ways of humanity and all of the myriad of emotions that we experience as human beings. And when you see a group, whether it's Queensryche or Journey or Kiss, bands, those are bands I loved, that can't get along anymore, that those relationships have been fractured in some way. Selfishly, you want them to continue to make great music. But I think as human beings, and I think we all have to recognize that there comes a time when it's just better to go your separate ways and to do things on your own. And best case scenario is that often you get these different parties breaking off and going and creating great music on their own as well. So, and I would argue that that's the case with both Jeff Tate and Queensryche with Todd La Torre, although I will share my preference, which is I think since 2012, I think Queensryche has been the more forward-looking band. I think Jeff's stuff has, I know he has released an album. He released an album of Queensryche covers, but also I know he has released a solo album or two. I haven't really followed all of that, but it just feels like the stuff that Queensryche is doing. Particularly, again, I'm a big fan of 2019's The Verdict. It's just really good stuff. And I'm all about the good stuff. Okay. I've yammered on enough today about this. Now it's your turn. Tell me what you think in the comments section. And as always, thank you so much for watching.